What is going on, guys? Real Touch GML here, back with another Java tutorial, and today we will be continuing with our Java series. So last time we just talked about what we're going to do with this series, and gave a brief explanation of, on Canvas here and Runnable. But today we're going to actually start creating our frame for our window. We're going to be using some dimension for this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say public static final int width, and I'm going to equal it to 320. I'm also going to say public static final int height equals width divided by 12 times 9. And that, I mean, you could set this height to whatever you'd like, but that just gives a nice aspect ratio on what I want. So I'm also going to say public static final int scale equals 2, we'll say. And this is going to be the scale factor. And now I'm just going to finally say public final string title equals, and we can just say 2D space game. That's going to be the title of our game. So we're going to go ahead and create the main method, public static void main string args, and tab that down. And the reason we make this static, now I'm just going to let you know that you really want to stay away from static variables because they're just no good. They can cause a lot of mix-up and give a lot of weird errors if you use it like a ton, especially from transferring data to one class to another. Which is why you need it static. But yeah, static final int, and this is because this is like a constant. So yeah, the width is never going to change. The height is never going to change. So yeah, that's why we have that as a static final. And a final just means that it cannot be changed. So I'm going to say game equals new game. So we're just going to create a new instance of our actual game class here. And I am going to say game dot set preferred size, and we're going to create a new dimension. And this is going to be width times scale and height times scale. There we go. And you can import dimension. And I'm just going to copy and paste this down 2 more times. And this is going to be set maximum and set minimum. There we go. Now dimension is just really creating a new dimension, and the actual and dimension does extend an object here, but the actual constructs a dimension and initialize it to the specified width and specified height. And the actual definition of that is a class to encapsulate a width and a height dimension. So yes, we're working with width and height. Those are the 2 parameters we have in here. And we just multiply it by scale because we're actually going to be scaling that up. So we're going to say JFrame frame equals new JFrame. And I'm going to say game.title. And again, Control-Shift-O to import that JFrame. And yeah, we're going to be creating the JFrame from this. So we're going to say frame.add game, which is going to take our dimensions here. We're also going to say frame.pack, frame.set default close operation, operation JFrame dot exit on close, frame.set resizable. We're going to set that to false, and frame.set location relative to null. And then we can say frame.set visible. Set location relative to null just basically sets that function to null, so it's not actually going to go through the method of set location relative. It's not going to set the location. Is what we're doing there. It's setting this visible, obviously. Frame.set resizable, which means you can't resize it. Set default close operation, which takes an int. This is actually an integer. That allows our X button to work, basically. frame.pack frame.pack, it's a what am I trying to say here? It actually extends off the window class, but not the actual JFrame class, which is kind of hard to, doesn't really make sense, but it basically just, I'm gonna say packs everything together. I actually don't really know what that does. I've heard someone say that it actually should probably look it up now, but that if you resize the window with a aspect ratio with like a certain, not just resizing it itself, that it will bring all of your images to that aspect ratio. But I don't think that's right. Let me know in the comments, or I'll probably look it up and put it in the description if you'd like. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put it in the description. So yeah, there we go. And so now if we went ahead and played the game here, we would get an error. Let me just add this real quick so we don't get that error. So if we run the game, as you can see, here's our window. Boom. 2D Space Game is our title right there, and we have a nice window. So that's probably all we're going to be getting to today. We haven't spent much time though. Okay, we can do one more thing here. Let me just go ahead and erase that. What we're going to do is, I touched on implements runnable. Actually, you know, it needs a method called public void run. It needs this method. So what that does is, what runnable does basically, and also what I'm going to do public class, I'm going to add this default serial version ID. Go ahead and add that. It's yeah, just add it. So what runnable does is, when a thread is called or started, it'll take that thread and it'll call this run method here. And this is where our game loop is essentially going to be. And the game loop is the heart of the game, of any game really. It's the heart. You need a game loop to have your game run. Some sort of game loop needs to be initialized. So yeah, we can go ahead and actually start that now. So we can create a boolean running can equal to false, and we can create a new thread. I'm going to call it thread, right? And in our while running, or in our run method here, we can say while running, and then boom, this would be the game loop. We're going to be doing stuff to this to make it a little better than this, because this would just be a crazy game loop if it was just this. It would use a lot of CPU usage, and yeah, we don't want that. Actually, what we're going to be doing is we are going to set a certain amount of time where our game updates, and we're going to limit that, and then we're going to have it render all of our graphics as much as it wants to. So yeah, that's kind of how we're going to do that, which is a little bit difficult, but I think you guys can do it. Yeah, we can go ahead and start the thread now. So I'm going to say private synchronized void start. And we're going to call this right off the bat, but this is actually what's going to start up our thread. So right now we initialized our thread, but nothing's happening to it. It's just there. You know, we can't just initialize it and have it start. We have to actually start it. So we're going to say if running return, right? And return basically means get out of this method. We don't want to be in this method anymore. So if running is already true, why would we want to make it true again? So that's basically, we're going to make running equal true. So it goes through here once. If it's ever accidentally called again, it's alright. Sorry about that. Someone just walked in. Kind of forgot where I was now. But yeah, running equals true. So if, I don't know if I already said this, but if running equals true and this method accidentally gets called again, why would we want to start the thread up again? That would cause some problems. So if it's already running, then just return out of this method. We don't need to be in here at all. There's no reason to be in here. So we can say thread equals new thread, this, which refers to this run method we're talking about here, and thread.start, which would be the actual starting of the thread. And we can also create a stop. So private synchronized void stop, and if not running, return. So this would only be called in our game if there was a thread on the loose. If there was a thread going on. And if there isn't a thread going on, why would we want to do all this stuff and kill our thread and everything? So if there's not a thread, then just return it and get out of this method. And in synchronized, you want to do synchronized. Again, I'm not sure. I have forgotten, but private synchronized void. If we say synchronized, that basically is dealing with threads, and it just doesn't mix them up really. If you're dealing with any thread, we're going to want to use synchronized. So I'm going to say running equals false. We're just going to stop our game loop, and thread.join, and system.exit 1. And we do get an error here, and that's because we need to surround it with a try and catch, because it can actually not work. Joining all the threads together, it could fail. So yeah, it probably will never fail, but it can fail. So yeah, that's why we need to try and catch. So if it for some reason fails to join all the threads together, then it'll give us a stack trace, which basically just in console tells us our error. Yeah, thread.join, it just joins all of the threads together and waits for them to die. It's basically all it does. And we won't really need this unless we use or it's not needed as much if we are not in an applet, but we can convert this into an applet later on in the series. Right now, after our run method, we're just going to make it stop. So after our game loop has been destroyed, we're going to make it stop, which calls this here. So we can say system.out.println working, and yeah, just to show that it is working, it should show an infinite amount of working in console here. But if we go and play it, you'll see it doesn't actually work. As you can see, we're not seeing anything in console, and that's because we actually have to call the start method here down in our main method here. After we've created everything, we can say game.start, and there we go. See, working. So now it is actually working, and our game loop has gone through. Our full thread has started, so that is all very good. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Next tutorial we will get into actually creating our FPS counter and our ticks and all that. So go and like, go and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments. I will get to you. I promise. I promise. And you can hold me to my word if I don't. You say you promised. So there you go. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.